Penyasaran subsidi diesel di Semenanjung tidak akan memberi kesan kepada harga barangan keperluan di Sabah, Sarawak dan Labuan.
660 individu berusia bawah 21 tahun di Sarawak telah diberikan kewarganegaraan.
Sarawak kini menjalinkan kerjasama dengan Bank Dunia dalam menjayakan perdagangan karbonnya.
Good evening, you are tuned in to AWANI Tonight with me, Cynthia Ng. Johor Menteri Besar Dato' On Hafiz Ghazi has joined the police in appealing for public aid in finding 6-year-old Albertine Leo Jiahui, who went missing last Saturday night. On Hafiz Ghazi made a public call for help via his social media page on Monday. The police, he said, are making every effort to locate and track down the missing child, but urges anyone with information or comes across this child to immediately report to the nearest police station. Meanwhile, the child's mother on Monday urged the public not to spread fake information about her daughter's whereabouts, which could affect the chances of her being found. Albertine was reported missing at 8:30 p.m. on Saturday after separating from her family during a Bon Odori event in Eco Galleria, Iskandar Putri, Johor Bahru. The child is about 120 centimeters tall with long hair and was last seen wearing a white Mickey Mouse t-shirt. A purse and a set of car keys have been recovered by police divers in the ongoing search for evidence behind the murder of Nur Farah Kartini Abdullah. They were found by the police at around 11:20 a.m., some 50 meters from a bridge that is believed to be the location where the suspect had thrown away her belongings. 5 divers were seen performing the search with a radius of around 300 meters at Sungai Trolak, Kampung Batu Empat, Slim River. Earlier on Monday, the remand order for a 26-year-old policeman linked to the murder was extended for 7 more days. 25-year-old Nur Farah Kartini was reported missing after allegedly delivering a rental car last week. She was found dead at an oil palm plantation in Kampung Sri Kledang, Hulu Selangor at about 6 p.m. on July 15th. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim assures that there will be no subsidy rationalisation on RON 95 for now. However, he says the government is committed to improve the country's financial capacity and reduce its new debt to 86 billion ringgit.
We have to ensure that there is more prudent manner of spending, avoid waste and borrow only when it's absolutely necessary for development purposes, and partly also to pay for outstanding debts.
In 2021 and 2022, Anwar said the country's debt stood at 100 billion ringgit. The amount was reduced to 93 billion ringgit in 2023 and will be further reduced to the target of 86 billion ringgit this year. Malaysia will evacuate all of its students from Bangladesh amid deadly protests in the capital of Dhaka. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim announces that the Foreign Ministry will arrange for chartered flights to bring the students home tomorrow.
Kalau setakat ini, kerana keselamatan anak-anak di Malaysia itu menjadi keutamaan kita. Jadi kalau beberapa hari pertama itu nampak keadaan mungkin terkawal, tapi sekarang ini dari maklumat kedutaan rasanya lebih sesuai kalau mereka dibawa pulang.
The Foreign Ministry has relocated Malaysian students affected by the situation in Bangladesh to the High Commission building for their safety. It added that it was making arrangements to ensure Malaysians were given security clearance to leave the country. A total of 192 Malaysians, including 124 students, 58 non-students and 10 embassy staff are expected to return. Thousands of Bangladeshi students have been demonstrating across the capital after courts reimposed quotas on government jobs, which were repealed in 2018. More than 100 people have been killed since riots broke out last Tuesday. The Bangladeshi government has closed all public and private universities, imposed nationwide curfews, and deployed the army.
The Immigration Department will add more autogates at Kuala Lumpur International Airport Terminals 1 and 2, as well as Penang, to reduce congestion. Home Minister Datuk Sri Saifuddin Nasution says the move is in preparation for Malaysia's role as ASEAN chairman in 2025 and Visit Malaysia Year 2026.
He said 40 new autogates have been added to KLIA Terminals 1 and 2, while additional facilities in Penang are being identified. Saifuddin previously announced that visitors from 36 low-risk countries would be allowed to use the autogate from June 1st. This includes travelers from all European Union countries, Bahrain, Qatar, Oman, Jordan, China, Canada, Hong Kong and Taiwan. Separately, Saifuddin announced that passports with 10-year validity would be introduced soon, after its implementation was fine-tuned.
Malaysia Airports Holdings Berhad, which runs almost all the airports in Malaysia, said the introduction of 6 foreign airlines helped Malaysia grow international traffic by 40% in the first half of 2024 compared to a year ago. The 6 new airlines were Cambodia Airways, Fly Dubai, Iraqi Airways, Juniyao Airlines, Thai Lion Air and Turkmenistan Airlines.
In a statement today, MAHB said the airlines helped it achieve 45 million total passenger movement in the first half of 2024, representing 87.9% of pre-pandemic levels from the same period in 2019. At its Turkish asset, the Sabiha Gökçen International Airport, the additional of Air Arabia and AJet boosted passenger numbers to 20 million in the first half of 2024, surpassing pre-pandemic passenger movements by 18%. The two markets combined helped MAHB report 65 million passenger movements in the first half of 2024, a 15.8% jump from the same period in 2023. According to MAHB, the robust first half performance was driven by increasing air travel demand, visa exemptions for travelers from China and India, and an expanded array of airline routes.
Former Nangka State Assemblyman Dato' Awang Bimi Awang Ali Basa has been appointed as the 21st President of the Dewan Negara. He replaces Dato' Mutang Tagal, who passed away on May 10th this year.
Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim nominated Awang Bimi for the position in Parliament today. He was the sole candidate for the position. Awang was sworn in as Senator on July 15th and will serve for one term until 2027. He was Nangka's State Assemblyman for 3 terms from 1996 to 2011. He also served as Parti Pesaka Bumi Putra Bersatu Youth Secretary General, as well as a member of the party's Supreme Council. As a legal practitioner, Awang has handled civil and criminal cases in all courts since being admitted as an advocate and solicitor by the High Court of Borneo in 1984.
We'll be back with more after the break.
Di dalam setiap berita yang dibawa, konteks amat penting. Kami sentiasa membawakan yang tergempar dan terkini. Pastikan Astro AWANI menjadi pilihan anda, tidak kira di mana sahaja anda berada.
A growing number of senior Democrat politicians are throwing their weight behind Kamala Harris to be the party's candidate in the 2024 U.S. presidential elections. Now, this comes after President Joe Biden bowed to pressure and dropped out of the race, having faced increasing calls to step aside since his TV debate against Donald Trump last month. Biden, the oldest person to ever hold the Oval Office at 81 years old, confirmed that he would serve as president until his term ends on January 20th. He has not made any public appearances since testing positive for COVID-19 last week and has been isolating at his home in Delaware. Biden also endorsed Harris as his successor, who stated her intention to earn and win the nomination. The vice president will need to secure the backing of at least 1,986 Democratic delegates to secure the party's nomination. All 50 state Democratic Party chairs have already pledged their support for Harris to run against Trump. The Democratic Party's Rules Committee has called for a meeting on Wednesday to implement a framework to select a new nominee. Democrats are set to hold their convention in Chicago in August. If she emerges as the nominee, Kamala Harris would become the first female person of color to lead a major party ticket in U.S. history. While Democrats are largely expected to follow Joe Biden's lead and support Kamala Harris to avoid uncertainty less than a month before the Democratic convention, there are risks. Public opinion surveys indicate that Harris's approval ratings are nearly as low as Biden's.
Well, I think, first of all, let's be clear. Although Vice President Harris is the logical choice to move to the top of the ticket and has President Biden's enthusiastic endorsement, has been endorsed by a number of Democrats already, including former President Clinton, among others. It's still unclear what will happen. And ultimately now the pledged delegates will have to cast their votes now that President Biden is not running. After, if this goes beyond a first ballot, then the so-called, well, previously known as the superdelegates, with some 700 of them, would have a voice as well. So by no means is the party it's not clear at this point that Vice President Harris will be the nominee. I think the question for Vice President Harris is not whether can a woman win the presidency, it's can Vice President Harris win. And there have been, her approval ratings have not been great in office. She has had some major electoral successes throughout, a very rapid ascent from Attorney General of California to senator to vice presidential candidate to vice president. Remember, in the 2020 presidential campaign, she suspended her campaign before the nominating contest began due to issues with funding and popular support. Her approval ratings as vice president are not great. In fact, in kind of the current polling, the matchups against former President Trump, she's faring only kind of marginally better than President Biden. However, Vice President Harris, I think, having served in office, having run a presidential campaign before, is well positioned to pivot and to mount in this limited time. It's really probably the Democrat with the only Democrat with the visibility to mount a strong campaign in this time, less than 4 months before Election Day.
Israel's military has launched artillery and airstrikes on eastern Khan Yunis shortly after demanding residents leave what it had previously designated a humanitarian zone. The barrage of attacks early today came less than an hour after the evacuation order. At least 30 Palestinians have been killed. The Israeli military said it was planning to begin an operation against Hamas in areas including the eastern part of the Al-Mawasi humanitarian zone in the southern Gaza Strip, following the launch of a rocket attack towards Israel. It called on residents, many already displaced multiple times, to immediately flee further west in the area. The order affects more than 400,000 people. Israel's wave of attacks in eastern Khan Yunis comes as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu heads to Washington to address the U.S. Congress, which has approved billions in military aid to Israel during the war. It also comes as Israel negotiators prepare to restart stalled prisoner exchange talks on Thursday. China will gradually raise its statutory retirement age, currently among the world's lowest, to allow people to work longer. The country is facing soaring pressure on pension budgets, with many provinces already in deficit. The retirement age is now 60 for men, 5 to 6 years below that in most developed economies, 55 for women in white-collar jobs and 50 for women working in factories. Policymakers have aimed to raise the retirement age for the past 2 years, but this change will be the first to allow workers the option to continue working. National health authorities project the population aged 60 and older to increase from 280 million to over 400 million by 2035, equivalent to the combined populations of Britain and the United States. Currently, each Chinese retiree is supported by the contributions of 5 workers, a ratio expected to drop to 4:1 by 2030 and 2:1 by 2050. Finance Ministry data shows that 11 of China's 31 provincial-level jurisdictions are running pension budget deficits. The Chinese Academy of Sciences predicts the pension system will run out of money by 2035. That wraps up Awani Tonight. I'm Cynthia Ng. Thank you for watching. Good night.